I'm sure everyone by now has seen the documentary Inside the Manosphere by Louis Theroux. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's from the UK, but his name looks French, so I don't know. But the goal of the documentary was to bring awareness to, you know, what's going on with the Manosphere and how it affected people. At least that's what everyone had the assumption of. But as someone who has watched the documentary, it looked like it just highlighted the people that spearheaded the Manosphere and not went over how it negatively affected people. Which, yeah. But that will change today, along with my 2 cents about the documentary. I'll also be talking about what other people have. I'll also be highlighting what other people talked about in regards to how it negatively affected the groups of people, whether it be the sex workers that the Manosphere championed, but not so much champion at the same time, the young men that fell victim to this scheme of just putting their money and thinking it'll go somewhere else, but honestly just line somebody else's pocket, and the women that were in proximity to these men. And I use that term very lightly. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I'd like to step back and introduce myself. Hello! I'm Tam the Yapper, and welcome to my channel. On this channel, I talk about stuff that comes to my mind, which is a lot. So do yourself a favor and make yourself comfy, have some water nearby, maybe some snacks, and get ready because I have so much to speak on. So with this, it's kind of going to be a 2-part series because I don't really want to give these people too much light. The first part is just me talking about the documentary and what other articles have talked about with how it has negatively affected so many people. The second part, it will talk about the people in the Manosphere, but talking about them as the losers that they are. I'm sure a lot of commentary channels have done this, but I'm going to do it too, and I'm definitely gonna be digging in that ass.
Yeah, boy.
And I know Louis tried his best with trying to get all the facts situated, and with Netflix, they have a reputation of being absolute when it comes to making documentaries. Have you seen the Monster series? According to the conversation, and I'll be citing them a lot because not only do they talk about the young men that were swept into the web, that were caught in the web of the Manosphere, they also talk about the women that were accosted by these men that were under this illusion. So with the conversation, it talks about a study of men that have managed to leave the Manosphere. And they do reference incel culture and the violence against women perpetuated by men who have these misogynistic incel views. But this study takes place in Australia, which is right for concern because there are some Australian schoolboys that are hostile towards their female classmates and their female teachers.
40% of teenage boys think women lie about domestic and sexual violence. That's a new finding from research from the University of Melbourne, which is looking into the links between misogyny and extremism, and it's far from the only worrying finding. 28% of adolescent boys supported violence to resist feminism, but adolescent girls weren't far behind at 21%. 25 to 30% of young men also expressed support for some sort of violent extremism, and more than a third agreed with misogynistic attitudes. So what's going on? Well, in short, research has shown boys and men increasingly feel alienated, humiliated, or uncertain about their place in the world. And that makes content which blames all of this on women especially appealing. And the business of validating these grievances online is lucrative. Experts say bringing more education on social and emotional skills into classrooms has already made a measurable difference. But the pathway from misogyny to extremism isn't inevitable. It can be interrupted, but teachers are going to need a lot more support, and the rest of us are going to have to come to terms with just how serious this problem is.
Even though this study showed that some of these numbers were pretty small and seemingly insignificant, there's still boys out here that are against feminism, and those boys will grow into men that'll be against feminism, and those men will have bad intentions towards women. Excuse me. So as small as a number may seem, It's still concerning, but thankfully there are ways to prevent this. A lot of schools and family members are pushing towards what's known as positive masculinity, which is pretty much just men and boys to express their feelings, to not bottle their emotions up, to have friends to go out to go to in solace, and to more or less just rely on, so that there isn't this quote unquote male loneliness epidemic. As long as there's positive masculinity, the percentage of misogyny will decrease, as what they've seen with these proposed actions towards teaching positive masculinity. But for the men and boys that fall under this illusion, they are pretty much being preyed on. And as much as it seems like an outlandish theory, they are being preyed upon by these men that flaunt this rich and successfulness. And I know men and boys don't want to be seen as victims because that's what patriarchy teaches, but if you are being preyed upon by someone, be man, woman, non-binary, somebody, you are a victim. And there's nothing bad about that. Well, let me rephrase that. Being a victim is a terrible thing, but it doesn't have to define you. You know what I mean? Once you find that, as a man, once you find that you've been victimized, that's the first step towards healing yourself. You can go and get help to better articulate how you feel about what happened to you, whether it be through therapy, journaling, what have you. And you can get the ball rolling towards healing yourself. But back to the people that prey on these young men and boys that have a mindset to want to improve themselves. These manosphere, quote unquote, alpha males promise wealth and women through bettering themselves through self improvement, which, on the outside looking in, it seems like a good thing. Whether it be with neating up your hygiene routine, going to the gym more often, being more presentable in the job force. But no, it's not that. It's not that. It goes all the way out to left field.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Did I scare you? I'm sorry. Sorry, Bubba. The Manosphere men pretty much painted the 9 to 5 job as what's part of quote unquote the matrix. And that hustling is basically being your own boss. They even have quote unquote academies to coach them into bettering themselves, which would be nice if it wasn't just a big money laundering scheme, especially from the likes of Andrew Tate, who's got a weird case. So why is he around? And not only does the idea of the matrix breed the idea of people not wanting to take up trades or work 9 to 5s anymore and try and do their own little hustle, it's also a breeding ground for conspiracy theories. And the biggest conspiracy theory that the Manosphere men have is rooted in racism and anti-Semitism. The Manosphere men talk about a group of quote-unquote shadowy elites that are the reason why the U.S. is the way it is in regards to men being victimized. And I use that term lightly because these same Manosphere men are the reason why Donald Trump got elected a second time. And he's part of the actual shadowy elite that, is part of a certain list that the U.S. government is trying not to release completely. But that's another story for another day. But it also creates an environment where men cannot be vulnerable. Because that's not what an alpha male does. An alpha male is the victor. An alpha male can do anything he wants. An alpha male isn't sad. You think an alpha male is sad? What do you think this is? But with that set of ideals, that is just a net negative towards men's mental health, which is pretty concerning since, according to the CDC, as of 2023, men make up almost 80% of self-deletions. And in this graph, it says that people ages 85 and older were the highest, but you also have to look at the concerning numbers of people in their mid to late 20s to their mid to late 30s, early 40s, early 30s, especially mid 30s, early 40s, how high that number is. Well, how high that percentage is. And in the documentary, there was a young man that Louis was interviewing, and he talked about how his brother lost his battle with depression, unfortunately. From what my understanding from context clues on how this young man was talking, he did not give himself time to heal. And that makes me concerned about that young man, and I hope he does not follow the same path as his brother. So that's my hope there. And also in the documentary, a lot of these Manosphere men had their own bouts of childhood trauma that they did not heal from. And since they refuse to heal themselves, they want to make it everybody else's fucking problem. They don't want to blame what happened to them on the trauma of capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy. No, they don't want to do that. They want to blame it on the women, the people that own uteruses. They want to blame it on them. They want to blame it on women, femme-presenting folks, basically anybody that has ownership of a uterus. They wanted to blame it on them. And with that, that led to more levels of harassment in the workforce, in schools, even to where women just don't feel safe at the job, and girls just don't want to participate in schools anymore or just show up to school because they just do not feel safe. And there was another study after, all the stuff that happened in 2020 with a certain virus that I cannot name, but they interviewed some girls, some school-age girls that saw some Manosphere content, and they called it quote-unquote scary and unsettling, and it promoted unrealistic body image and unrealistic sexual behavior. And some of these girls were as young as 14, being told that they need to please a man in order to get what they need. That's not the case. We should stop teaching girls this. We need to stop teaching girls that everything needs to revolve around a man. No, everything needs to revolve around you, young lady. It needs to revolve around you. You come first. You are the only person you have other than your mother and your female family members. Well, before anything, it's you. You are your own boss, girlfriend.
The shocking findings that show a third of Gen Z men, so that's between the ages of 14 and 29, believe that women should obey their husbands. In comparison, 13% of so-called boomers, those aged between about 60 and 80, so kind of our generation here. Not you, Judy, it's all right. I know you're Perry and Mary. Only 13% of them believe the same. So we're going in a strange direction here. Almost a quarter of Gen Z men said that women should not appear too independent.
To appear to.
Wow.
Like I say, we are going in a direction that Jane, Nadia and me never ever imagined that we would. How, you're a good bit younger than us. How do you see this?
It does feel like there's quite a few is going back to this kind of old school.
That's what it feels like to me.
Mentality. I was with a group of young people the other day around ages around 18 or so, and we were just chatting about life and what they like to do and cooking and food. And one of the young men was like, "Well, I don't really cook," and I was like, "Well, you should learn." And they were like, "Not really, because when I get married, my wife will cook." And I was like, what do you mean your wife will cook? What made you have that assumption? And he goes, well, she'll want to cook. And I was like, but there's a difference between, actually, does she really desire to cook for you, or you kind of demanding or just expecting?
Y'all have heard me say it several times in my live stream. I cannot stand a nigga that don't know how to cook. I cannot stand it. Why? It's not because, the whole Manosphere thing. I don't understand how the fuck you survived this long not know how to fucking cook. Like, were you always eating ramen noodles every day? You still gotta cook that shit. You gotta boil water. Did you burn your noodles? Did you burn the pot? Is it that bad? Is it that bad? Let me But yeah, what we know with what's going on with the whole Manosphere illusion is that it's exploiting vulnerable men and boys, impressionable men and boys, to have this very harmful mindset and to enroll in classes that lines their pockets so that they can procure online sex workers. Yes, I'm getting to OF. I'm getting into it. Because the same men that'll go about saying, you need to stop watching adult films, you need to stop pleasuring yourself every damn day. You need to have more self-control. Have OF models in their telegrams. And this was talked about in the documentary. I'm not making this shit up. This was talked about in the documentary. And another thing these Manosphere men like to do is put on the front that they're law-abiding citizens. This your hero. This your king. This your king. Anyway, I'll get more into that in part 2 of talking about the Manosphere documentary, because this would be an hour-long video if I was going to be digging in the asses of these men that headline the Manosphere, because I got so much to say. I gotta put my glasses back on because I'm about to read y'all for filth. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you really did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And there's a new feature called the hype feature, to where after you like it, you have the option to add points to hype this video so it can be seen more. So if you 3 times over enjoy this video, then hype it up so more people can see, you know, what people have to go through to getting out of the Manosphere. But other than that, be sure to wash your hands, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and men, take care of your mental health come hell or high water. Y'all need to learn how to heal. And to learn how to heal is to understand what happened to you and go forward with that. Even though I am not a licensed psychologist nor psychiatrist. I hope to catch you guys next time I have a critical think piece. Take care now.